There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Never Lost podcast, Leah, Natalie, and we have some amazing guests here as well. Very excited. Today, we're just having a live Zoom chit chat about what is and just allowing things to flow and arise as they do. We come from a non-dual background, but really what is non-duality? If you just break it down, it's just these words: breath, aliveness, timeless, and these words even get negated. So let's just start off the conversation, and I'll pass the ball to whoever wants to chit chat, sharing an experience, thoughts, whatever seemingly is arising. I'm just keeping it a really open forum right now. If anybody wants to share a story or their story, this is so open and free in the moment. So yeah, anybody want to come forth with any sharings, questions, or thoughts? Let's do it.
I'll just say hi to everyone, and it's so good to see you all. Happy to be here. I think Michael was going to say something before we started recording. Did you? Michael's like, wait, me?
Oh.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There is a sublime blankness, a sublime emptiness that thoughts arise and gently out of nothing, it seems. The thought is thought about as a thing, but it's not really. The thought cannot think about thought. It's just an arising of conceptual what? It's so hard to get a hold of what's happening when we are what's happening.
No.
Women chuckle, and it's so beautiful. Men don't chuckle.
Yeah.
Well, women doesn't either chuckle. I mean, but seemingly they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, men can try to chuckle, but it never comes off right.
Yeah.
The sound of women chuckling is so beautiful. Life is so beautiful. I think we're the only creature in the world that sees beauty. And I think we're the only creature in the world that loves. That gets a lot of comment when I mention that. They say, "Oh, my dog loves me." But he really doesn't. He's a pack animal, or she, and they are submissive to us. And all of those loving things are submissions. And humans love each other. Humans have this compassion only because we can objectify, and we have a word for love. Only because of language and this imaginary separation. Love emerges only in imaginary separation from each other. In that imaginary separation is our longing and loneliness. Life is longing, and we are objectified longing. Somebody, we were talking about this on Tim Kliss's meeting, and I mentioned the longing, and somebody says, "Tim, do you long?" He said, "Sure, I do." And the lady said, I'm really disappointed. I thought you wouldn't long for.
Yeah, it seems like there's thoughts that it's going to be that knowing something about this, which is already, would lead to a better or a less painful
Mm,
life. And it's that thought, and we don't know. I mean, where are these thoughts? The thought that there is separation, there is no separation, but feeling separate is wrong. And that right there keeps the thought, which is just arising, of there isn't separation, but I need to see that there isn't separation. Is just the thought about that, because where is the separation? What's who's doing any of this to make all of what is appearing, all of what is arising even happen, and is it happening? It is and it isn't,
But
you know
is there an actual feeling of separation, or
no,
is
I
it
mean, what does
just
that mean?
spontaneously thoughts arising,
Mm, yeah.
saying there's a me separate from something else? I mean, how does it, is there a feeling of not being separated?
mm.
Well,
To
uh
feel separated, there needs to be like a feeling, like the opposite.
yeah, but it's almost like a need. It's an inherent need, as longing, wanting something that is already. Because what is that need actually? Nothing is needed for it to be as it is. I mean, what would be needed for it to be exactly as it appears? I mean, there is no
Yes.
need, but a thought that it could be better may arise, and then there is a need. Oh, I could go, I'm hungry. There's a thought, I could go to the refrigerator, get food. And then that may or may not happen. Who's to say? But the need to know what this is when this is unknowable, and where's the need, you know? It's not, I think people are looking, and it's just what happens, looking for a shift or a better way to live, a better way to, and nothing can be maintained because there isn't a controller of anything. So where's
Exactly.
the maintenance? Who could maintain anything? The thoughts just arise. They're not being, I mean, they're not even, what are they? No one, I mean, we can go into stories about what these thoughts are and how they work and what part of the brain and all that's, there's not a problem with it. It's just that
No,
that need to figure out what this is, when, I mean, figuring it out is also this, but it can't be known. It's just unknowable. And
no, exactly.
go ahead. Yeah,
And,
go ahead, Sandy.
like even knowing what thoughts are, I mean, are thoughts to begin with, is there something
Right.
like a thought?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
what is a thought is already the next step to say, that is there a thought to begin with? Who knows if there is a thought? I mean, who is there to
Right.
validate if anything is happening or not happening to begin with?
Right.
And I mean,
Because
that,
uh,
yeah,
go ahead. I was just going to say, the thought of, um, the thoughts and the memories and everything that's happening is all arising simultaneously and disappearing without any space at all. So a thought of, I'm the type of person does this or that. Well, the thought of I'm this kind of person, along with a memory of being this type of person, arises simultaneously. So who's to really say? It just seems continuous, but it doesn't. but I think that, you know, and it's, once again, it's just what seems to happen, the thought that, okay, I can live that, I could live this way, but that's also just a thought of a way to live. There's only just living, whatever. I mean, you know, it doesn't really, I think people may be looking for a change, you know, you know, the suggestion is always, this doesn't go anywhere. This isn't becoming anything, you know, this isn't leading to anything other than this, whatever seems to be going on. I don't know. I
Yeah.
ramble a lot.
Yeah, but you know what, Natalie? Like we've chatted about this a lot, and I mean, we're so inundated with culture that you've got this Swami, this guru, everybody telling you hit a samadhi state. There it is. You're one with God. You need to purify your body. And, you know, this is my story, but within seeking, it was like, lots of teachers and lots of people saying, okay, I hold the answer, so you need to submit to this way of seeing it. And you want to believe that somebody holds the answer so badly, because when you're a seeker, it's so painful. And it's like, just give me some relief, give me something, somebody knows something that I can just grasp onto. And so that seeking is kind of torturous. And I feel like the most compassionate thing to say is there's nothing to seek for. This is it, whatever's arising.
Yeah, this is the secret right here. This is
There's
all
nothing more. Like,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one who's closer or further away. So a
Yeah.
lot of the teachers, who knows? I mean, no one could ever know another, because what is another? You know, it can only be seen as it's seen, you know, and thinking the thought that it's just a collapse of thinking there's anyone, any appearance that would know something more about what this is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that just doesn't arise. Anything could happen, but, you know, looking to someone for an answer to what is already seems pretty pointless, unless, you know, someone thinks it has a point, and then there'll be some more seeking. But you know, that's just not how it is here.
But it's beautiful at the same time, because
Sure.
I mean, whatever seems to appear or arise or seemingly is happening is just perfect as it
It's perfect.
appears
There's
to be,
nothing needed.
seeking or not
Yeah.
seeking, or no, exactly, or the absence of all those needs or whatever. There's no controller behind it to decide to stop, and it may appear to stop or to intensify or whatever, but not for anybody or by anybody.
No.
So it's, I mean, there's no escape from this,
What
what seems to be happening, right? I mean, there's no escape having the need for tea instead of coffee, or I mean, it may apparently change from coffee to tea. But for no one doing that, there's nobody doing anything already. Yeah, doing is just simply what seems to be done.
Yeah.
As is seeking and telling, I know something which you don't know, and that is the truth. I mean, that claiming is also just simply beautifully happening, and there can be like it's just a bunch of bullshit, or it maybe is something there which is also just simply happening then, right? I mean,
Right.
who knows?
Who knows? There's not a controller of it. You know, I think that but this is also just what happens. But the thought that I could control my thoughts. Well, how are you producing those thoughts? What are you doing to create a thought. And what does that even mean? The thoughts just arise, and then there's a claiming of those are my thoughts. I mean, there's nothing right or wrong with that. The thoughts are still arising, whether you say they're mine or you say they're not. Does it really change anything? I mean,
No.
you know, because it's not leading to anything. So even just us talking about what this is it's just what seems to happen. For some reason, we're weirdos and we like this kind of stuff, you know, but
Yeah.
there's no telling why. And there's no shame in talking about this, you know, especially with people that also, you know, like to talk about this. What's the problem? Whether I'm doing it or I'm not, it's just what
Doesn't
seems to be
matter.
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Sander, you're talking about coffee. I think you said coffee versus tea. And it's funny because I was saying to Natalie the other day, we contemplate like little detail minute things that pop up. And it was like, how is it even that you have different taste buds than I do to create different preferences? Like, what is even taste buds? And like, we all, like, I could taste coffee and go, oh, that's nasty. And you taste it and go, oh my gosh, yum, this is the best thing I've ever had. It's like this uniqueness arising within this. It's just, if you
stunning.
really break it down, think about like little minute things, like just even taste buds and what that is. That's just like a whole microcosm world of things arising within the mouth to create preferences. Like, what is even that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are many ideas apparently what the taste bud is. I mean, we can ask a doctor and he can tell a whole story about what those things are. But I mean, and
But what do we need to
with
know
it,
about taste buds when we put a piece of candy in our mouth? Nothing. It's sweet. Oh, yummy. Or, you know, if it's bad. But what do we need? But that knowing arising of what is this? And let's name it and let's get to the bottom of it. But anything that is appearing is just that. I mean, it's not like there's a deeper knowing that needs to be grasped onto or that could be to have a taste hit whatever. I don't even know how to describe it because something's on the tongue and it's like, where is that taste even coming from? It's so bizarre, but it's so cool too, you know? Yeah.
yes,
Michael.
boundless coffee taste.
Yes, always coffee.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I loved your rambling, Natalie. I mean, it was so like was exactly where I am, and kind of it felt like something that I needed to hear. Like last night it was just nonstop thoughts and contemplations and my restlessness during, you know, trying to sleep of this message and all of that. And I forget exactly what you said. It was so perfect, but about the you were talking about the sense of a me. You were talking about the me sense and how everything was just arising, even the thought and or sensing of a me, and it couldn't be any different. But so why does the me need to seem to know that? I forget exactly what it was, but it's exactly where I am. I am so
Yeah.
stuck. I am so like after hearing this message for, you know, a year and a half or more, I resonate so deeply with it. The whole free will and things arising, it just seems so obvious to me that that's the case. There is no free will, and everything does just completely arise out of any control. And yet there is this, there's this strong seeking, and I guess maybe belief that there shouldn't be an arising of a me. I mean, it's funny, I'll wake up and go, God damn it, I'm still here, you know, like that me sense is still here. Like every day I'll check, you know, and I guess I'm curious if you could talk a little more about that. But I will say that also like many speakers, I don't think there's no promise on order, but that when you guys were talking about there's nothing better or it's no better, I do get that, but at the same time, at least I think
Sorry.
it doesn't fully capture. I think there seems to be some, I'll just call it relief or some easing. And even Jim Newman talks about this
Mhm.
a lot through often in his talks and interviews where, does life get better? Is it, well, I forget exactly. Like there's a wonderful interview between him and Sam Harris. I don't know if people have heard.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I love
It's just, it's one of my favorites. And what's the benefit? And he said,
right.
basically he was saying, look, to paraphrase, there can be, suffer. Oh, does suffering stop? I think was the question. And from Sam and Jim was like, well, it depends what you call suffering. He said, if you call suffering the seeking, he said, yes, that stops. But he said, pain, discomfort, uncomfortable emotions, quote unquote bad. So all of that can keep arising. But the overlay of extra quote unquote stuff, that's my word, but that comes from the sense of being a real person in a real world, that it doesn't arise anymore. And for me, it seems like that's a benefit. So maybe you and others can talk about what comes up in relation to that. Or if nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the sense of me. If there's a sense of me, I guess I'm trying to think about what that would mean. And I think what happens is there's a feeling of a separation, that this is my life, this is for me to control and for me to find out. That thought might arise, but there isn't a controller of thoughts. So, I mean, if that thought arises, it just arises. Nothing needs to happen. Nothing needs to change to make that thought. I mean, thoughts just can't be maintained. And so that thought may arise, and then later that thought might not arise. But then there's this, like I was talking about before, it's almost like a memory arising, a thought of a memory, a thought of a thought that I'm doing this or I'm not doing this might arise, but it seems like a continuum of I've been doing this, I've been trying, I've been seeking. But who would know that? Who would know that there was seeking or not seeking? Because what are we trying to get to the bottom of? And it seems like it's a need for better than what is, because there should be a way to make this all be nice, less suffering, all of this. And that's not freedom. That's a controlled way of thinking about things. But there's no problem with that if that's how it's being seen. It's just not seen that way here. Because it's almost like the separation feeling of my life, my control just doesn't arise, because the thoughts arise the way they arise. It's not better or worse. It's just, and there's no one that would even know how another appearance, another human is thinking about something. Things are heard how they're heard. There isn't a controller of a way to hear something like someone else, because there's no one doing that already. The thoughts are already just arising. I mean, that's just a story of how to explain something that's unexplainable. The words are meaningless, but if there's meaning to words, then there's meaning to words. it's almost like there's no difference, that we would need time. We have the appearance of time when we have an appointment or when we need to be somewhere, but my daughter's alarm clock, time, other than that, where is time? This is timelessness appearing as time, as a continuum of things, but that's it. It's just the thought that this is a linear movement of one thing moving to another, but you would need time to compare this with this. I mean, that's just the thought that there's, an appearance of time even, but it doesn't really change anything, whether there's time, whether there's not time. It's just as it is. I don't know.
It
Anyone
seems
else
like
want
the
to
only
jump
thing
in?
that's
Okay.
the only thing that's changed, so to speak. Yeah, nothing overall is changed, and yet it seems that for certain body minds where the sense of a me doesn't arise anymore, that there is I don't know.
Something that's illusory, something that's not already not happening. A me.
Yeah, that's a
a
good way.
controller. Yeah, something that's already not happening, for
Yeah.
it to stop happening. What would that mean? Who would know that? Go ahead, Sanders. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Sorry.
Sorry. But it's funny, because the sense of me. So, is there really something like a sense of me, like the sense of being a human or being a man or being a person or whatever, or is this just thoughts arising? Hey, there's still a me,
Right.
I mean, and is there anything wrong or right with the sense or the thought arising, which is already uncontrollable? It's just simply what seems to be happening. Waking up, eyes opening, oh, I'm still here. I mean, that there's nothing wrong or right about it. It's just simply what seems to be happening. Feeling or thinking I'm a man or I'm here or I'm not here. It's just simply what seems to be there. There's no need for it to change. And I mean, there's too much focus maybe. Like, okay, there has to happen something. I still feel like a man or still like a person or like a me, and this is not good. But I mean, this is already spontaneously, effortlessly, and innocently appearing as anything. So, I mean, is there an actual thing like the feeling of me or no me to begin with?
It seems
Maybe
like
maybe
there
you
is,
maybe
listening to people. It seems like there is, in the sense that it's all apparent, I guess, but it seems
yes.
like there's no one um, where the illusion of a me or or a recognition arising into the illusory nature of the me, where some level of some recognition somehow arises for no one, where there's no that me sense or that me thoughts or however you want to describe it. It's a complete illusion. It never happened. It's not, it's a complete illusion. So wait,
Well, it happens, and the funny thing is, when we say it's an illusion, it's almost like flipping the coin, right? So
Yeah.
so we move from this is real to this is unreal. That's just simply flipping the coin. I mean,
Yeah.
this is happening, and at the same time, it's not happening. Both and neither. I mean, there's not much to say. There's no way in validating if there's a me or no me to begin with as an actuality. I mean,
Yeah.
for that to be validated, there needs to be something which is completely separated from whatever seems to be happening now to be able to validate.
What do you mean flipping of a coin? Can you,
So, I
or two
mean,
sides of a coin, whatever?
like from saying, okay, but it's an illusion, me. I mean,
You would need to
that's
know
the-
what's not an illusion
yes.
and
I
what
mean,
is, I mean,
yes. I mean, it's just so we flip the coin from this is from real. This is all real to it's all Maya. It's all an illusion. But that's just flipping coins. I mean, there's no way to say if this, whatever seems to be happening at this moment, sitting and talking words and sounds, if this is real or unreal to begin with. It's just simply what seems to be happening.
yeah. Because the real and the unreal, or the me and the no me, it doesn't change what is. It doesn't change. It's not going to lead. And that's like the sense that there's a need, because there's lack. For there to be a need, that means there's lack. But that's just a thought that something shouldn't be as it is. For this to be as it is, nothing is needed. Now, a thought arises that it needs to, I don't like this. This shouldn't be happening, but it is happening. So it's already. So the thought that it could be otherwise, I mean, it could arise, a thought that it shouldn't happen. But really, it's like kind of funny, because it's like, well, it is happening. It seems to be happening. So a thought that it shouldn't be is just a thought that it shouldn't be. It's not going to change what is. You know, it's not going to make what is be a certain way. Those kind of thoughts might arise that, oh, it'd be so wonderful if everyone could just know that there's no one, and then the world would be amazing. Well, where's the freedom in that? I mean,
Yeah.
this is already free. This is just so wild and free that it can appear as all of this, as wanting to find something, waiting for a me to drop. I'm waiting. This is the problem. There will always just be waiting. There isn't a me. There's no
I
one
don't
to
get
wait.
it. You said, why would there always be waiting? I mean, there apparently is, but why say that?
As
if
long as there's waiting, there's only waiting. That's it. Waiting for something, because this isn't going to lead to anything. That's the only way that I could put it. You know, this isn't we're thinking of things as if I could maintain a blissful state, if I could maintain bliss, forget the word state because whatever, but if I can maintain equanimity and anything that arises, I would have this peace and this calm. Well, you would have to know what not peaceful is to know what peace is. So that doesn't even work. The peace that we talk about that passes all understanding is the peace with whatever's arising. If it's anger, it's full on anger. There's no, I mean, that's it. If there's sadness thinking I shouldn't be sad, then that's just arising. Like no one's controlling the thoughts. There isn't a controller. They just appear.
Yeah, I don't I don't have a sense. Yeah, this coming back to the beginning, it seems like where I'm most stuck, so to speak, is looking for the me to drop, because I don't have any fantasy of bliss or harmony
Right.
or a changed
Okay.
world for me or anyone. I don't, I mean, that seems pretty clear, because things are just arising in nobody's control. So I mean, yeah, there's no,
So do you think there's a wrong? Do you think that having a sense that you are, do you think that's wrong?
So I
Do
think
you know what I'm
I think
saying?
it's I
Because
think it's like
adding more
I think
pain
it's
to your
like if you
life.
feel sick,
Okay.
there's the natural feeling of I don't want to feel sick. And if there's
Mhm.
steps that arise, like, oh, I can take, I've had a lot of difficult health issues over the last year, and they lasted quite a while. I'm much better now. But
Good.
during like the peak of those, it was nobody knew what to do. No, I went to, medical expert after medical expert, have all these tests done, and no one knew what was going on or what to do about it. And so there was a hopelessness that arose, and also like, wow, I'm miserable and there's nothing I can do right now but be miserable. But that didn't mean that there wasn't, that if, okay, that if there was something that could fix it, if there were a medicine, turned out there was actually, at least for
Okay.
some of what was going on, that I would take it. And would my life change? Well, I'd feel better. No, it wouldn't stop car accidents and other illnesses and hopefully joys and all of that from just going. But at least there wouldn't be the, I'll say, overlay of feeling miserable on top of it. Now, if we drill into that, you can keep, getting in a circular thing, but I'm using it as an analogy just because that's what I feel like how I'm treating the me sense. Like, it just seems apparent that there is, there's a belief on my part based on what many speakers have said, including Jim, and other, a lot of speakers, that there is an easing that comes from a not being the illusion of an imagined self and things that come out of it. So that to me is the quote unquote medicine or benefit that I'm looking for. And when I see the me, it's like, okay, it's stuck, that's as kind of like rudimentary as I can describe how I feel right now. Because there's no disagreement there's a resonance in what you're saying. Yes, so much seems obvious, but yeah, the talk of how the sense of the sense of a me is what's blocking what is obvious. It gets very kind of just tied up for me into a knot.
Yeah.
Well, you want to say something, Natalie?
No, you go ahead. Anyone else? I've talked a lot.
Well, like anything may appear to happen. It doesn't matter. I mean, so you said there's the feeling of wanting to get better, but I mean, thoughts arising, I don't want this, or I like this, or I want something else. It's just simply what seems to be happening. There's already no one behind it doing it, and there's no one able to escape that already. So in that way, it's hopeless. It's totally free if it should be in a certain way or in a certain direction, like it should stop or it should diminish or something. That's not freedom. The freedom is that whatever seems to be happening is just simply what seems to be happening. There's already nobody doing it. So, I mean, suffering may still arise, intense or not intense, or sometimes, or maybe, or whatever.
Except seeking doesn't arise, right?
Because but I mean, there was already no one seeking to begin with. There's no one seeking or
right,
not
but they're
seeking.
seeking it. It's so difficult to. Yeah, the language just keeps shifting, kind of. It's kind of like two fingers. You can keep having the distance for infinity, and they'll never touch, and yet it seems like they touch.
But all of it this, the feeling of seeking, the feeling of not seeking, the feeling of a me, the feeling of not a me is all just happening. There isn't a controlling of it or a controller of it.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, the relaxation comes when, you know, one of the kids breaks something and it's just like full on, and not trying, there isn't a feeling or a sense. It could, anything could happen, but there isn't a sense of, I shouldn't do that. If that thought arises, I shouldn't have. Well, it's like, well, it did. And it seemed to happen. And there may be an apology to the kids, or there may be, you know, whatever. But there isn't a controller or a certain way to do anything, because nothing really ultimately is right or wrong. Yes, something may happen and there might be a thought, that's wrong, that's right. But there isn't anyone coming up with a set of rules for what's right and what's wrong. It just arises so naturally. You know, everything is effortlessly arising. A thought that I don't like this, a thought that I need this to happen so that I could feel better, or that I could just have the same thing, the same. But there's no one, and no two appearances, no two human people, whatever, you know, you want to call us here, would ever, there isn't anyone who could know another. It could only be seen from the personal, you know, lens, but it's not a personal, it's not like it's my lens that I'm seeing it through. It's just a lens that it's being seen through. It's just, you know, it's just how it's seen. Things are just how they're seen, without a controller of, now I need to see it this way or I need to see it that way. Those are just thoughts that it should be seen or heard a certain way. You know, I keep having to listen to the message. Sorry, my dogs are fighting. I keep having to listen to message so I can hear it the way others are hearing it. But there aren't any others. You know, it's only heard how it's heard. And there isn't a right or a wrong way to hear anything. There's not anything right or wrong with any of it.
Yeah, I get there's no
know?
judgment. There's no judgment
Yeah.
about right or wrong, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's I mean, this sounds so coarse grained, but it's kind of like it just seems so quote unquote easy for mind for humans, as let's use your term, for human, or let's just say people,
People, yeah.
who where there's not a me sense arising, to say, hey, it's just completely fine. In other words, everything's just arising as it is, it's all perfect. And that's, it seems, I don't know, maybe there's no memory of how it felt, or maybe
Yeah.
if there wasn't much seeking on people's parts, but if there's a memory of, if there was seeking or spiritual seeking or whatever, it's kind of like if everyone's healthy, it's kind of like saying to the sick person, there's nothing wrong with sickness,
Right.
it's fine, you know. And
Yeah,
it's,
I get that. Yeah.
that's like a really coarse grained way of, but that's kind of how it feels. Yeah, I don't there's nothing that's being said that doesn't, there's not full agreement with, but there is just a strong sense of yeah, I'm stuck in the belief that the me needs to drop. The me needs to drop, because there will be, at least there won't be the extra layer of
Right.
suffering that comes from seeking. Yeah.
But that's
Yes.
beautiful. It's, you know, it's full on stuckness. What's the
Yeah.
problem? You know, I mean, it's just
The
full on.
relaxation of it's full on. It's
Yeah,
stuckness. I feel stuck. And you know what? Who cares? So what? That's how it is.
Yes.
I feel like that was like a major, like, well, it couldn't be otherwise. So who cares? And then it's just like, just somehow something just stopped arising. The thought of, my life and I should and this shouldn't, all of that, because it's like, who cares? It's as it is. It couldn't be otherwise. It's just as it is. There's no
Feeling
need
stuck.
for it not to be stuck.
Yes, it's beautiful. You know, this is unknown perfection. Feeling stuck or thinking I'm stuck or I need to get something or I don't need to get something or sometimes or never is just beautifully. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just simply what seems to be happening. And it doesn't matter what, feeling like a person, not feeling like a person, sometimes feeling like a person, getting it or not getting it, or thinking you got it, or maybe it's just simply what seems to arise. I mean, it's totally, I mean, there's nothing to say about it. It's just simply what seems to be happening for no one. There's no control. There's no one doing this. There's no one behind it, able to stop it or to get away from it. There's no one getting away from I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And
And that
I mean,
unstuckness
this
could just stop happening. The
fall
feeling
away.
of
Yes,
unstuckness.
yes. It can just totally drop in a minute,
And then it could come right
and
back.
and it can come right back. But there's no one doing that. There's no one able
No.
to let go this sense
No
of
one, there's no
stuckness.
responsibility.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's part of the hopelessness of it. Although I don't know. I mean, it's interesting coming right back because I don't mean to just keep talking about Jim because I listen to and resonate with many speakers, but I don't listen to everyone, but I've listened a lot to Jim.
Yeah.
He doesn't agree with that, you know, if I don't know how to say it, but you know, the
Go
word,
ahead and just say
right?
it.
If there's a falling away of the me, okay, that wasn't there, however we want to actually describe it, you know,
Right.
he said if there's a if that's if that is seen by no one, he doesn't think or it doesn't seem like he acknowledges that it could come back, that because
Well, I mean,
in the sense
this
that
is,
no
but
one knows
Jim,
anything, but
right. But this is this is the whole thing. There isn't a Jim who would know. There isn't a Jim doesn't Jim's an awesome speaker, and I actually, that was the first introduction to non-duality, was Jim Newman, just popped up on YouTube, and but no one, I mean, I don't know what any other appearance is thinking or trying to convey, but there can't be, I mean, there isn't a, thinking that someone has something that could be given to you.
no, I don't think that though.
Okay, you don't.
That's not
Okay.
at all. And
I don't know how I heard that then.
and I
Sorry.
remember actually something that Jim said, which, like, to ram home that point, at least it rammed it home for me, was he said, well, let me ask you a question, to the interviewer or whoever was saying. He said, do you think, after you found out about Santa Claus, do you think you'd ever believe in Santa Claus again? And it was like, oh, yeah.
Right.
So, but sorry, not you, but there seems to be some discussion about, oh, well, the belief in Santa Claus can come back full on. Yeah, Santa Claus is real. In other words,
it's highly unlikely. I mean, the thought that I'm doing this is, I mean, who would know? Who would know if it, I mean, there would have to be a future that someone could know how it's going to be. And that's just, there isn't a future.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. When I started seeking out people for help, there were people that I chatted with and did one-on-ones who were radical non-dual speakers, like very, very radical, and they were pointing to me. And now if you go on and look at their pages, they're talking about collective consciousness and purifying the body and fasting to reach other states. And
Mhm.
prior, it seemed like they were really into this message. So there's literally no telling how anything is going to arise. I can't even tell you, like, tomorrow how I'm going to feel, what my mood is going to be, how I'm going to react to specific situations, because it's so spontaneous. And it's almost like, and it's funny, I like to use this reference because it's like you're in the wave in the ocean and you're like, where's the ocean? But it's literally like you're being done. Every word coming out of your mouth, every breath is it. And you're saying, what is it? Where's the me? I feel like a me. And it's it doing that through you.
Just-
Through that
yeah,
appearance.
You're the appearance
Yeah.
saying,
I get it. I get it.
and whether you
Uh,
recognize it or not, it doesn't matter because it's already being done. So like whether you feel like a me or not, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't change really much of anything, because I mean, if you ask Natalie and I, we're still reactive to things. We still have normal human emotions rising.
Again, there's
We still
no,
go through the life experiences that any other person would. But you know, it's like I guess in a sense, it's like, I don't know. It's like nothing really needs to change. And when there was a lot of seeking, it was like, I need a better state because life is hard and tough and it's got to be something else. So I look to others to try and find the answers. And it's literally just this being done. So if you feel like a me or not, that's just simply what's happening. There's no better state to get to, because even if you didn't feel like a me, you'd still have life happening. It's not like I walk around and say, well, there's no me and I'm not going to react and nothing's going to, it's full on. Actually, like emotions are so intense because you're not trying to like push them away. I can't speak for everybody, but that's what happens here is like things are felt really, really full on. It's almost like you embrace into the humanness and become like this full feeling person who doesn't have a lot of the filters saying like, this shouldn't be, let's block this out. Let's take some like pill or do something to find a better state. It's like, oh, wow, okay, this is arising. Damn, this really sucks. I'm going to feel it. Because there's nowhere else to be, nothing else to get. It's just simply recognizing like what's arising is already here. We're the wave in the ocean and we're so vast and expansive. And so it can just be moment to moment, any which way. There's no one way to look at this. There's no answers. Nobody has an answer. There's no guru. There's no specific way to be. So like you being you, Ben, is like beautiful. Like you are this gorgeous, stunning expression of oneness. And it's just like, and you're coming here and you're saying, I got the me, I need the me to drop. And it's like, wow, you know, like you're beautifully you and your expression with everything that's popping up. And like nothing, literally nothing needs to change for you to be more it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's how I see it from here. But you know, you're a beautiful expression, Ben. You really are.
well, thanks.
Hi,
I-
Howard.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say hi to Howard.
Oh,
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You're a beautiful expression too, everybody.
ah,
yeah.
Howard.
Howard. No, but this whole me and no me thing, it becomes quite boring
Comical.
in a way. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I mean, of course, but there's a you and there's no you at the same time, you know, just or else it's just flipping coins that there is no you. It's just another position, you know, where you can cling on to and oh, there's no me, so everything is okay. I mean, if that is just simply what seems to be happening, then you know, telling you thoughts arising, there's no me. I mean, there is a you and there's no you. Who knows? I mean, and there are many speakers. It's easy when you log into a Zoom meeting that thoughts are saying, yeah, but those guys know something. I mean, it's almost impossible to escape that. And there's no need to escape anything. I mean, escaping or not escaping is just simply what seems to be happening then, or or believing or not believing whatever is being said or not said. I mean, there's no really one resonating or not resonating to begin with anything. I mean,
Yeah, it's impossible to
impossible.
have non-duality without duality. Yeah,
Yeah.
impossible to have no me without me. You know.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to know what a me is to know what
Yeah.
a no me, you know?
Right.
And who would know? I mean, what is it? Yeah,
Exactly.
it just yeah.
Yeah. So,
But knowing and not knowing. I mean, what this is, where we are, what's going on. I mean, it's unknowable. And it doesn't need to be known. I mean, everyone's doing okay as far as I can see without getting to the bottom of what this is. You know, I think that kind of that thought of there's a need to know and figure it out is just a need to know. I mean, it's not like it's going to lead to a certain way of thinking that could be maintained and always held on to. You know, it's slippery, just like the message. I mean, this message, it's slippery. It's just like the effortless conversation that's arising here. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it just does
Totally.
just does as it does. It takes its own, you know, kind of shapelessness.
Yeah, it's like the moment you speak words, they're gone. Like it's nothing to grasp onto. Time
how about
passed, you know, it's just so slippery, like you said. It's just simply gone the moment you say it. So like really, I mean, what can we really pinpoint it to? It's just impossible.
isn't it the fun of slipping though? Like
Yes.
the fun of slipping from self to no self, from relativity to no relativity. Like you'll have that what I call the snapback, the slip and the snapback. You're kind of losing your mind. You literally are losing
Yes.
that reference of a point of reality, and you're slipping into this kind of insanity. But the insanity is that there's nothing to hold on to. And so you slip from the reality that seems like everything is relative to each other. And then you slip out of relativity and then snap right back to it. And the thing is the fun of the slip, because once you slip from reality or from relativity, there's really nothing to be relative to. And the next thing you know, it's just that's just it, you know. You're whatever you want to call that. And the fun part is the slip. That's why I think we constantly are in that kind of that gray area between self and no self, because that is the interesting part. The gray area itself, being one or the other, not so much. But that's the
Free
way I
fall.
see it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, Howard. It's like the free fall. It's
Yeah.
free falling. It's
Yeah.
slipping though. You know, it's not. There's no outcrop behind the waterfall where there's a me or no me. It's just totally falling and slipping. This is. It's just slipping. It's just free falling. Not
Yeah.
clinging on to me or no me or whatever.
Well,
You
like
know, who cares?
falling itself though would be a misnomer, because you're not falling from anywhere. You're not going
course
to.
No.
There is no relative ledge or bottom. So when there's no slip, right? There's no fall. There's no nothing. You're just kind of, all of a sudden you're not a thing aware of other things. You just become nothing, right? You're not relative to anything, and so there's nothing to really slip from. And that's where I think people like ourselves, who seem to have glimpsed that, you know, the slip from relativity, and realize that it's not actually relative. It just appears that way. And so, but we don't want to go all the way to the other end of that, because that's no longer really fun. The individual as we are, even if, you know, we realize this is only an appearance, it's still fun to appear finite. It's fun to appear this way, because there's really no explanation in a relative term for no thing. So there's no you know, so really that's not, you know, not really what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the actual recognizing of the appearance, rather than actually the consequence of what that actually means. So yeah, that's why I think we love to talk about it so much, is because the gray area is so fun to slip around in. You know,
Seemingly.
we can use our imagination, even as we are saying there is no imagination to use. You know what I mean? So and that's why it gets so kind of, you know, jumbled with language, and people start to argue. But the reality is that we're not really arguing with each other so much as we are trying to build that next precipice to slip from. You know, we don't want it's not like we're disagreeing. It's just that we want to find that next subtle nuance to have absolutely no control over, and feel that lapsing of of a control. But we don't want to absolutely lose control, you know. That's just the way I see it. We're playing in the gray areas. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
say
nothing
what-
right or wrong with any of it. If it seems to be happening, then it seems to be happening, and saying that's right or that's wrong or it's not. It's just the fun. It's playing. It's like no one's getting to the bottom of any of it. So we just like to chat about, you know, what can't be spoken of, you know. It's fun.
When you said we like to play in the gray of it, but just to be clear, you mean that that's apparently what's arising, as because there's no we to play.
No, but as it,
I,
go ahead, Howard.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. If you're no, it's your show.
No,
Please.
no, I think he was referring to something you said. So you go ahead
Yeah.
and speak for yourself.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with you know, there's no one here. Full stop. I don't agree with that. I think just because we're not foundationally actual, it has nothing to do with the fact that I feel as if I am in a conversation right now, and that's not separate from anything. Otherwise, there'd be something that I'm not aware of making it happen, and in that case, I couldn't know anyways. So it doesn't really matter. The reality is, however, if you are suggesting that I am not a thought that thinks, for example, or a branch that bears fruit, but you can't know where the branch comes from, right? It doesn't mean that the branch doesn't appear and bear fruit. So what I'm saying is that just because I am not foundationally actual, or I can't objectively prove my existence, does not mean that I am not here, wherever that may be, having a conversation with other people that are into a Q&A, and we are not separate from that feeling. Otherwise, you are saying that there is something that I am unaware of that is making that happen, and that separation is something that I am not privy to, which would mean that I can't know, okay, what is other than what is appearing. And in that case, if what you're saying is like radical non-duality, there is no self, full stop. If that is the case, and I feel as if I am engaged, however I am not, then it's contradictory, because what would that mean is I can't know what is. And in that guise of separation, then there is, and somebody saying, well, there's nothing other than this. However, you can't know what's actually making you say that. So what you're saying is you don't know anything. And so how can you know that there's nothing else but this? So the reality is that it doesn't, not only can you not specifically say one way or the other, but to say one way or the other means absolutely nothing. So either way, it doesn't matter. And if what I think is my thoughts and feelings, and I'm pontificating, I feel this way, even though it's not me, it's more like a sneeze or a hiccup, just an involuntary block that comes up. I can't know that, and so what difference does it make? It appears as if I am participating within space and time as a position in a dimension relative to other people that have intellect and all of that stuff. However, space and time is not relative. So before or after doesn't really mean anything, but it just appears as it does. And so it's not one way or the other, but both. As Saunders was saying, we are and we are not at the same time. You do and you don't. You are and you aren't. Everything is and is not. It's not mutually exclusive. They're actually both happening at the same time. Like time and space itself is happening and not happening at the same time. So and that's the thing. What I mean by like duality and non-duality are not mutually exclusive. They are not one or the other. They both happen simultaneously. And so we have these ideas like there's separation and not separation, which creates separation, right? It's just, you have to think beyond the relative form of opposites and realize there are none. And that's what I have a problem with, like the Parsons outlook. The Parsons outlook is saying, well, I know that this is it because I don't exist, and this is the logical outreach of that. Well, no, it's not. It has nothing to do with logic, reason, meaning, or purpose. It's not an equation to be figured out. It's not one or the other, and it could be anything it likes at any time. You can be completely autonomous at one moment, and as an individual in space and time, and then in the next moment, none of that actually exists, and you are completely like you're running on an autopilot, like something else is making you work. It does not have to be one or the other, and it is not categorized as either or one or the other. It's just, it doesn't work that way. It could be anything it wants at any time. It's completely anarchistic and has no definable quality. It doesn't work that way, and there are no explanations because it is everything, literally everything and nothing. And then that in itself is only relative to itself. And beyond what everything and nothing is also something that is not separate, but appears that way. And so you can go beyond the idea of everything and nothing into what appears as that next veil dropping, and then realize that there's actually no veil dropping appearing as veils dropping, and there is no separation between that and the next whatever looks like separation. What Parsons has done is he took separation away and then put it on the next level of shall we say observation, and instead of learning that separate only looks separate and is not actually separate, he just created another form of separate and put it on the next veil of perception. I'll shut up.
Hmm.
Boom. Howard.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
even nothing is going on. Even nothing is going on, and everything is going on, and nothing is going on at the same time. Both and neither. Just unable to validate.
And no need to validate. I mean, that which can't be validated. I mean, where's the need to validate? It's just fun to talk about it, and we're not.
Well, needs may arise, right? Needs may still
Needs
arise.
may. Oh, of course. I need to
Apparently.
get a coffee, or
Yeah.
who cares? But the thought of, well, you know, there is like a time where it seems like there were thoughts about needs dropping, or possibly getting to a point where there'd be an okayness with everything. But the okayness is always, it's, if it's arising, I mean, what could be wrong with it other than a thought that this shouldn't be happening, this shouldn't be arising this way? I mean, if it, what could be wrong with that? You know, what could be right with it? It's just as it is, a need.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
What's
it's
the
wrong
point?
or right.
Yeah, what could be
there's
wrong or
no-
also
right with
simply,
it? Yeah.
Right.
it
There's
doesn't matter.
there's nothing separate from feeling a certain way. And so
No.
if you feel that way, there's nothing separate from that feeling. You know, it's not
Right.
like, oh, and that's the thing that I baffled with the Parsonian message as well. I'm like, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. It's because I sensation doesn't matter. You're trying to say that there's something separate from the sensation, and that just doesn't make any sense at all, because the sensation is part of the story, and that's the
Right. And I
expression.
don't even know what
Yeah.
what any of these other speakers are talking about.
Yeah,
Only, and it's like, and I don't need to know.
Yeah.
I can, it's only heard how it's heard. There isn't a need to hear it the way they're actually saying it, because there isn't an actual way they're saying something. There's just a statement, you know, just words. And then it's heard how it's heard. Trying to fit it into a way that I could understand what they mean just is like pointless.
Well-
I mean, someone might like to do that, but it doesn't happen.
Well,
you
for
know?
me, like non-duality is each one of us in a dualistic sense looking at each
Mhm.
other, right? And the
Right.
beautiful thing about it is non-duality is looking through our finite sensations as our stories progress in that way. That non-duality is looking through Howard's eyes as that private moment of Howard that cannot be shared. Like, I can't share my innermost anything with you because there's nothing really foundationally there. But I can't know you, I can't know myself, I can't know any of
No.
that. But I do know that there is this feeling of sensation that drives the wants and needs of Howard in the story, right? I can circumvent that, I can navigate that, but I cannot know, for instance, if I am infinite. But as long as I am alive, as long as I appear, I may be. But at the same time, foundationally, I can be cut off in a finite sense of absolutely blackness or whatever the end is. So in every moment, there's the possibility of the infinite and the sudden demise that you will never know. You will never know whether you're finite or infinite in every moment. And so you're both, in a sense. And even though you are just a finite representation of, as Leo was saying, a finite representation of the infinite, or a dualistic representation of non-duality, right? We are each other, all of us non-dual, looking through the dualistic sense of our experience. And it's one of these things that is fascinating in that sense, because what that means is that you are both finite and infinite in that way too. You are both, your experience is personal, right, as non-duality, which is just paradoxically baffling, because we can't know each other. That's the game of separation. We each have this private sense of living our own lives. However, we are each other, looking at each other through each other's eyes. And so you have this sense of not just connection, it's beyond connection. We are each other. So but represented as these different identities, it's fascinating. And then every every pair of eyes you see is you looking back at yourself. It's just a fascinating thing. And then but to also have that privacy that is kind of ingrained with separation, and to think in terms of non-duality, coming up with different personalities to become, to actually be each other and not know each other at the same time. It's much like space and time actually existing and not existing simultaneously. You are and you are not. It's just the opposites just meld. They're not opposite. We are separate and we are not separate simultaneously. It's beautiful. And so your sensation and how you feel about things in life and how and your emotions and what you're going through are as non-separate as anything else that is non-duality. You are this emotional jumble of holy shit, what's going on. It's that's the beauty of it. The finite sense of like, wow, I can either be completely deluding myself right now and die and be completely gone, like death, the blackness of it, or every moment for the rest of however aware I might appear could be infinite. I can't know that I'm going to be infinite. I can't know infinity. You can't grasp it, right? But as long as you're alive, as long as you appear this way, you may be infinite. And at the same time, every moment might be your last breath. And it's fascinating that we are living on that doorstep of infinity and precipice of the finite at all times. And both are happening simultaneously. And we have this feeling of like walking on this tightrope without a net, and we're trying to figure out, how to say these things to each other. And we can't really we can't plant a flag and say, this is where we're going to say everything is. Nobody can do that. No, there is no is. There is no explanation. It's just the opposite of opposites and the impossibility of having one without the other. You cannot have non-duality without duality. You cannot have the infinite without the finite. You cannot it just does not work that way. You can't see what infinity is or is what the ramifications of infinity is without the
Right,
finite.
even the idea of infinity is like,
Yeah,
it's just an idea of what infinity might be, and it could be in any different person, it could be a different infinity. Like there's no two,
exactly.
there's no two thoughts that are identical that could match up, and that could be, you know what I mean? There's not two of
Absolutely.
anything, not two of anything. It's just
And they're actually saying that there are infinite infinities, and these are even within the physical realm of finite or infinite. And now it's funny. It's like now and infinity are both supposed, are relatively space and time kind of understandings. However, now can never be accessed, right? And infinity can never be ascertained, but you can't escape infinity or now. But yet you can't really grasp infinity and you can't really access now. So we're both in the now and infinite. And at the same time, we can't encompass infinity or access now. So it's fascinating. All of those things. I love it.
I love it. I
it's
love it.
appearing and disappearing simultaneously with no space in between.
Yeah.
And it's like seems continuous,
And that's the funnest part of it. We are disappearing and appearing as we speak. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And then there's thoughts of it, when there was intense seeking, it was like, oh, but I thought that, but I didn't. But who cares? I mean, who the hell cares? Who's thinking it? What are we talking about? And it's like, I think it's like this inherent need, this longing of not feeling separate, even though there is already no separation. It's just a thought of this shouldn't be. And that's a feeling of separation of there's a person who could autonomous that could control and move all that's arising simultaneously. No, I mean, what does that even mean?
Listen, guys, I'm going to interrupt for a second. We have Razia here with her hand raised.
Oh, hi, Razia. There she is. Hi.
Hello, Razia.
Hi. Hi. I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say.
We don't know what we're talking about. It's okay. No,
He
just
just
say
wants
whatever.
to crap. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
not
it was
important.
like, oh, Walter. I mean, Howard. Yeah, Howard. I think you're talking about duality and non-duality. Like the one can't exist without the other. Yeah, that I mean, that was like a bit like troubling now to me. Not troubling, I mean,
Yeah.
confusing. Yeah,
Well, to know separation, you would have to know
yeah,
what non-separation is. Do you know?
yeah.
I don't know what
Like
Howard
how
meant
do
by
they?
that though.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Are
don't
you
know.
asking me a question, Razia?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
she
I
was.
mean, I want to know how can they exist simultaneously? That's what you were saying.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you, man.
How does duality and non-duality exist simultaneously?
Like your left foot and your right foot.
No. Yeah, we're talking about form,
Yes.
form and the formless now. You said
Yeah,
they
like
exist
your left brain and
simultaneously.
your right brain, form and formless. If you know what appears to have form can see through that form, and that is the slip to the formless. But if there's no duality, there's no non-duality. It doesn't. Both of them are illusions of this apparent reality. There's no actual non-duality relative to everything and nothing, and everything and nothing is simply what seems like the brain processing signals, but you can't know the signals to be actual. So this reality is based on signals that appear as dimension and position and dimension, and you and I having a conversation and then talking about the fact that we're not here really having a conversation. What it is subjective, and the idea of an objective reality, both of them being completely only synonymous with what appears to be this discussion of subject and object. But there is no subject and object. There's no two of us here, right? There's no separation between us, and therefore no observer or observed, no subject or object. So what is appearing as duality, talking about non-duality, and how the subjective nature of the signals that are processed within the conscious mechanism that appears in our reality. We all appear to be conscious because what seems like the brain is processing what seems like signals from nerve endings, right? But you're not there at where the signals are coming from. Your brain could be in a vat, or you could be in a simulation, or you can be wherever, and to the point where it doesn't matter if there is a brain or not. It is just the story of signals from the outside of your body being processed in a place called the brain on the inside of your body. But that is just a story, a subjective
No,
story
I
that
mean,
you cannot validate. And because
so
you can't validate it, what it is the
Beautiful.
story of duality
Yeah.
without the
what
objective
you're
reality
saying,
of such.
so what you're saying, Howard, is that the brain is
Doesn't
just
exist.
there's non-duality in the sense that there's only one brain that's doing
No,
everything.
there's no
There's
brain.
no brain. No brain. There's
There's
not
no
only
brain.
one brain. There's no brain.
Yeah.
No actual
Yeah, but then
brain.
you said there's three people here, right? I mean, all of us are here. That
There
is
appears to be. Yes.
duality, appears to be. And then where are we appearing?
There is no where. There is no dimension.
How do you mean?
Say what?
How can they be, how can
There
we
is
all
no
be
how, what,
appearing?
why, when,
Where,
where.
Yeah.
where do we appear?
There's no
I mean,
here
that would
and no
make sense.
now.
Yeah.
There's no here
Yeah.
or now.
So you're thinking in terms of cause and effect, Raja. You're thinking in
Okay.
terms of
So when Nisargadatta and the Ramana or all the others are saying, I am that. What is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, they are full of shit.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know what anybody else says, and
I
I
don't know what they mean. Yeah, it doesn't.
I am that, yeah.
I mean, they're just talking on their own thing. I don't know what the reference is that they're making.
So,
Whatever they're
so
saying is
basically,
completely re-
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
not-
what
I
you
am
are
that which
saying
is
is
appearing.
that there's
yeah. What I have
nothing
no
there
idea
at
what they're
all.
talking about. How could I?
Yeah.
How could I
No.
know what's
No,
coming?
no, no.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because basically that is the thing. Now we are saying normal. I mean, in non-duality, that is the I am that. That is, or I am this, or
Mm.
whatever. Some people
No.
will say it's all this.
No,
What is
I am
all
that.
this? What is all that? You know what I mean?
Well, it really doesn't even
it
matter.
doesn't make
I mean, it
sense
doesn't.
if you are going to say there's yeah. No, I'm not I'm just saying like it doesn't make sense, you know.
No.
What is this
logically,
and what is
the-
that?
the-
And yeah.
There's no need to make sense either.
Yeah,
It never
the-
will make sense.
It won't.
And-
Yeah.
It won't.
what you're trying to do, Raji, is you're trying to make an objective truth out of a subjective foundation of information. There's no actual knowledge. There's no actual information that can be objectively verified. There's no way to, like, the brain itself is self-referential. What is telling you that it is processing information? The brain is, right? As it appears. But you can't cross-reference that source, right? So
Yeah, it's
and
not
even if it does-
objectifiable.
and even if it is actual, the brain, and it is a processor, the brain can't know that the signals it's receiving are actual. It just processes signals that says you're in a dimension and you're an individual that is feeling these things, and you're Razia, da 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 da. And Howard's this guy that for some reason,
So
you want
so
to
the
stomp somehow.
solidity that you are referring to, Howard, let me interrupt you right there, is the brain.
What?
That's what you just said.
What?
You are saying that the brain is doing all this.
No,
projecting
no.
a reality.
Roger, no.
Seemingly.
Let me stop you right
Seemingly.
there. You're completely not hearing anything I'm saying. You are not hearing
Listen,
anything I'm saying.
And it's just
Yeah.
being heard how it's being heard.
Yeah,
know,
you
that's the
just-
Yeah, that's how
problem.
it's
It's
being
heard, not
heard,
it's
yeah.
heard.
Can't control the way you hear
you want to stay where you are. You don't want to hear what I'm saying, right? You want to stay where you
no.
think you are.
No, you're wrong there, Howard.
Okay, now let me answer you then.
This persona wants to see how you are perceiving the world. That's all. So
Yeah,
that's why
well-
when you are continually talking, then it goes from one to the other, then I cannot respond to. So that's why I said
Well, Razi, I don't know what to say to you other
Yeah.
than, I hope you have
Yeah.
a
No,
good,
then I cut you off there and I
I
said,
don't know what to
okay, you are
say other
talking
than
about the brain. Yeah.
the
Now,
brain.
every time we talk, we are having this because somehow or the other you feel that I am trying to get to you. No, I'm just trying to understand how you perceive the world. Because
don't.
obviously there must be some consensus between me and you. You know what I mean?
Well, Raja, listen to what I'm saying. The brain is self-referential. What does that mean to you?
Yes.
It cannot be cross-referenced, which means it cannot be substantiated. It is a story about a processor. The brain processes signals, right? Well, as the brain processes signals, it cannot know the signals it's receiving to be accurate. So what does that say? It is processing subjective information, which means you sitting in your car talking to Howard is not actually happening. It's just appearing to happen even if the brain is necessary. What the story itself is telling you, that it is subjective and that none of it, you have to believe that the signals that the brain receives are actual, that they are accurate, that they are in whatever way, whether even the signals themselves could be jumbled for no other reason. or it could be
But
simply a
all I'm
prank.
saying, Howard, is that you're referring to a brain. You are referring.
And
And the
I'm referring to
initial
the
thing we spoke
appearance.
about was
No.
finite and infinite. And then I said, where is the finite and where is the infinite? And you said there's nothing there. But now you are talking about a brain. You see,
Well, okay.
that's all I'm
Now listen.
saying. That the
What a-
solidity is there, the brain. You know what I mean?
No,
don't know,
I
maybe
don't know
I'm
what you-
stupid.
No. See, what appears finite, right, is the story
Yeah.
of a brain receiving signals from an outside of the body, right? That is what is making this appear as a finite position in a dimension relative to
Yeah.
other things in separation. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, what does it mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does
Sorry, I was just busy.
Yeah.
Tell me again. I
okay?
didn't get that.
Okay.
How
Razia?
about this? Oh, go ahead. I didn't know.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Razia, I mean, if you want to do this alone, we can do this together, just the two of us. I mean, if you want,
no, it's
because
fine.
you
Yeah, we
might
can,
you might be
yeah,
having
maybe
trouble.
you want to talk about something else.
No, I
mean,
just
it's
don't
up
want
to
to take up everybody's time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. You can have a discussion together.
Yeah,
But it's
What about the
beautiful.
position thing?
Yeah,
though?
yeah.
I mean,
If
any
I can say
position
it,
is just a position. It's not almost
Yeah.
like someone could make their positions match up. There isn't a controller of that. So I think there's like almost like a disconnect. Like we need to figure out a way to think exactly the same, and that's impossible. You
Right.
know?
yeah.
Right.
It will
And
never happen.
whatever's arising,
Uh,
with you,
Never.
I
Razia,
don't
that's
think naturally it's impossible in the sense that there is a consensus about things, a commonality that runs through everything we talk about. Right. So, but
No.
yeah, what I'm talking about is simply that it's a contradiction of what he had said, that there is nothing, and then he says there's a brain. And he wants to take this discussion elsewhere. That's fine with me.
well,
Yeah.
okay.
But he didn't say there was a brain. He didn't
Well, because
actually
we haven't
say
heard
there
from
is a brain.
Michael. Right.
Yeah, Michael can talk maybe.
Yes, Michael the
We haven't
brain
heard from
man.
Michael, and then I think
the brain can talk.
the brain guy. You know, there is no actual brain to begin with. Is there a
Yeah.
brain? Who knows there is a brain?
that would be a brain saying there's a brain.
Yes.
But
yes.
what is that? It's
Yeah.
a thought
That's
of a
it.
brain.
Exactly. I mean, there's no way in knowing if there's a brain. There is a
Like-
brain
like-
and there's no brain at the same time. Both and
There's
neither.
Michael again.
Yes.
I've asked
There he
I've asked
is.
Michael at least a dozen times what he means by overlapping object, whatever he says, that phrase that he uses, and I have yet to get an answer. I mean, I have no idea what he means by overlapping objective, blah blah blah, whatever that means. I think the one time he told me it's just something that he uses to carry the conversation around. You know, it doesn't really even mean anything. He just uses it to keep the conversation moving. It's like a catchphrase
Oh.
that doesn't mean anything. As far as I can
Well,
tell.
does anything mean anything? I guess
Nothing has
it'll
no
mean
meaning.
something.
Well, we all each have our unique perspective arising, so I
Yeah.
respect everybody for their beliefs. But in the same token, if we look into science, you know, it's amazing how it's showing that everything is empty. Like we're made up of atoms. So, and atoms are what, 99.99% empty. So essentially we're empty space, this appearance, but yet, you know, simultaneously it feels real. The body needs healing, we get pains, we seek alleviating the pains. It's just like thoughts are rising. Is it a brain? Is it not a brain? All of that is this happening in this debate, and all of that is just simply what's arising. So we can't really come to a like firm conclusion of my brain is this cortex here and this pineal gland here does this, because this would be like really honing in and pinpointing a knowing of this leads to this, leads to this, when everything is just naturally, spontaneously arising as is. So to really like solidify everything, I think that's what the human brain wants to do, or the mind wants to like make everything like solidified and knowing, and this is specifically what it needs to be. But it's just so wild and chaotic and empty and free of that, that even like trying to say the brain does X, Y, and Z is maybe boxing it in a little bit. From this perspective, it seems like kind of boxed in to say X leads to Y leads to Z, and this is specifically what my brain does and the body does. Although we do have these appearances where the body, you know, you take a medicine and it alleviates a headache. So it's like
It's just what seems to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
boom,
no knowing
yeah.
you're boxing in what a brain is. It can appear
Because
as a
what's actually
neurosurgeon
being
knowing what a
boxed?
brain is, but do they really, does anybody really know what we're doing here? Yeah.
It's a feeling of separation, a feeling of it needs to be a certain way. Otherwise, it's just as it is. Look at an animal. They're just, I mean, it's just how it seems to be, you know, a human, there's thoughts. Okay, they're just thoughts. You know, they aren't leading to a maintenance of a way to be that could alleviate anything, because that wouldn't even be freedom. That would just be freedom appearing as boxing in. Oh, well, you know, it's all just freely appearing.
I completely agree, because at one point it could be literally, you know, just your appearance as you know, someone who is conscious and aware and all of that kind of thing, and you're going through the motion of feeling as an individual. There is nothing, you know, contrary to non-duality about that. Not as far as I can see. It's, you know, it's as non-separate as anything else. So you feeling as an individual is not you know, somehow doing something wrong. Feeling
Right,
emotion and all
yes,
that kind of stuff
yes.
is the story that you appear to be engrossed in, regardless of whatever claim wants to say it's irrelevant to non-duality. It's irrelevant that you think it's irrelevant. I feel I don't care, you know. It doesn't. So you can be engrossed in your story as an individual and still understand that you're just a finite understand, or a finite perception and perspective of an infinite unknowability. And you can't know yourself as a finite individual. You can't even know if you have a brain or not. So so what difference does it make? You know, the story is what
Yes,
it is, you know, and you
it's
are
the
simply
story
going
appears
through these.
effortlessly anyway.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's just like it just
So
arises.
sometimes you are dualistic, and other times you feel as if you are beyond just the sensations that the individual can create for itself. It doesn't doesn't have to be one way or the other. Sometimes you are literally on autopilot, and other times you are autonomous and on your own. And that is just the way it is. It does not have to be explained logically. It is literally whatever it wants to be, whenever it wants to be it. And it's not one or the other. That's
Yeah,
how, I
it's
mean,
like
that's the way
that.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Listen, what about this?
Uh,
It seems
yeah,
like that
but
old
Lee,
commercial.
what
Sometimes
you
you
were
feel like
talking
a nut,
about?
sometimes you don't. You
Ah,
guys,
No,
I mean,
sometimes you feel
like
like a nut.
nuts, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Almond
Exactly.
joy, almond
I
joy.
mean,
Yeah.
how is that different?
How is that wrong? How is that
How is
right?
that wrong?
I mean, it's just
The
as
most
it is.
amazing thing is that the beauty of it is that in your infinite little story of tears and laughter, that you are infinite in that moment as well. It makes it that much more beautiful. And whether it's true or not is completely irrelevant as well,
Irrelevant.
because true and false have no bearing anymore. There's no actual information that you can trust in any sense of, you know, false or actual. It just doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
If it's already
so
appearing,
how
then
you
saying
feel
it
in the
shouldn't.
moment is just amazing.
How
That you
feel in the
actually
moment.
feel as an individual in a
There's a
moment is
feeling.
amazing. And there's nothing
Yeah.
that should be detrimental about that. You know, there's nothing detrimental
Okay,
about
Howard,
dualism and
I tend to disagree with what you are saying because you are saying that no, everything is okay, right? And I am saying to you that if we look at, okay, let's go to actual examples, right, of people that have shifted. Let's take Jill Bolter Taylor. Now, did any of you listen to her talk or her
No.
TED talk?
I've listened a couple times.
I don't know
Okay,
anybody.
right. Now you go back to her shifting, right? And the way she shifted and stuff like that. And then you realize, although she had shifted, there was still that finiteness there. There was no infinite. She didn't go like, what she felt that she was this liquidity, that she was part of everything. But when she looked down at herself, she was still solid, you know? There was no like, oh, I've merged completely or stuff like that. So now the thing is, there are certain people who talk about actually disappearing completely, you know, into that. That is like, I would say, infinite. You know, where they actually disappear completely. I've heard
Yeah,
of
that's funny. An
instances I
individual
don't
saying,
know.
I've disappeared completely while they stand in
Right.
front
Who
of
would
me
know
saying
that?
it's completely
Yes,
stupid.
right.
I mean, and
Now,
we don't know
then,
what she meant
so
by that, but
Howard,
it
you're not
just
giving me a chance. You
It's
had
just
a lot of
ridiculous.
time to
I have
talk.
completely disappeared.
I'm just telling you now that now where I would say that even when a person does astral traveling, right? They leave their body, the solidity is still there. Somehow they
Well,
are connected to that. I don't
well,
Can,
think
what
they
is
can I say
leaving the
leave the
something?
body?
body and travel.
Let me say something about that, because like if you go into Vedic Indian traditions, it's a lot about samadhi states, leaving the body, astral travel. You can get really deep into spirituality with all those sorts of modalities and tools. And it's like that's part of the everything, because literally that can arise here too. In my personal story, I did a lot of psychedelics, and it was like it was glorious. I mean, the insights and the sense of no self and leaving the body and all those sort of things arose. And for a period it was like, oh, maybe I need to meditate to reach these states, or maybe I need to astral project or do more samadhi meditation or more kundalini yoga or these sort of things, because it's so prevalent within the dream. There's so many people that are doing these tools and modalities, and there's nothing wrong with it or right with it, but it seemingly keeps a seeker trying to find a state. It can keep you in this
Yeah.
cyclical like seeking and searching to try and achieve that. And man, those states are profound and powerful and beautiful. I mean, they're part of the everything that's arising. So it can be very enjoyable or very fearful and very heavy. But they're just states within what's
They couldn't be
arising
maintained.
here. You can't maintain it. It's like the what was it? Ram Dass kept taking like he was involved with acid, or he kept taking
LSD
LSD
was
to hit the
psilocybin.
eyepiece. And then he went to India and found his guru, and then would learn to meditate and reach those naturally. And like those are beautiful stories, because if you think about it, I mean, like it's literally just stories arising. That's all we have are stories.
It's not going to
and
lead
movement.
to anything.
It doesn't lead to anything because it's always this arising.
This
So it can just
new.
show up any which way. It can appear as a state of consciousness. It can be fun to play. But that's just what it arises to, Razia.
Okay, right. I liked what you said because it was down to earth. I could understand. Right. And yeah, that's so beautiful that you experienced that.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
The
you
infinite possibilities of
actually
what this
talking
is.
about. You actually, I mean, gave it in such, I described it in such a way that I could understand
Okay.
this infiniteness that you experience. Isn't that true?
Yeah, and you never lose this. This is always like you're always it. You're never separate from it. It's just showing up in every which way possible. It's showing up as beautiful Razia right there, asking questions and talking about the brain or whatever, you know, it's just you can't separate from it. So
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's all just arising
But
all
you don't,
simultaneously
yeah.
together.
So, yeah, so technically, we are the solid body, right? I mean, and then you have these experiences when you are out of bodies. That's what you're trying to say.
yeah, so we're not separate from anything happening. It's just simply what's arising. And if an experience of a samadhi state arises, that's it too. There's no specialness or like need to achieve or obtain at this point. It's just you're perfectly whole, whatever's coming out of your mouth, whatever you're saying, whatever your expression is, there's nothing that's going to make you more you or more connected to wholeness because it's it already. It can appear as someone saying, where is it? Or I feel separate, or I feel incomplete, because it can show up if it wants to in that way. And that's a perfect expression of it. So to even see like, oh my gosh, even if I don't get this, it is it already. There's nothing needed outside of what's appearing. You couldn't get out of it to take a peek and go into it because you're already it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So,
Yeah.
what you are saying, Lee, is that people are already this, they're always, yeah.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I
nothing
like that you
need to
said you
see.
can't be more you or less you.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
you know, a sense of, oh, you know, I need this to happen, but it's just that sense of I need this to be. It doesn't, there's actually no need for it to be as it is, you know, exactly as it
Yeah.
is. And then the
that
feeling
sounds
of a
good, yeah.
need arises, and it's like, oh, okay, I need to figure this out, but what's actually going to be figured out about what is unknowable? You know, what
You
could
know,
ever?
Razia, I used to listen a lot to Ramesh Balkazar, and I still like him. And I would say, like, he says, operate as if there is free will, knowing that there isn't. And I feel like that kind of like gives you a little bit of relief. Like you operate as a doer, but knowing that there's no knowing why anything arises. So you're not like beating yourself up over every decision or anything happening or the past, because that's it too. So you continue life as is, like life is just lifing and doing it. And it's just simply what's happening, and you just allow the flow for it. So it's kind of like you operate as if you're doing it, but knowing that it's just happening. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah, it actually opens your heart out to any possibility
Oh
that's happening.
yeah, anything can
Yeah.
happen. No telling.
Well, I
Well,
want to hear
Good
from
morning.
Michael.
Oh
I keep
yeah.
wanting to hear from Michael because he hasn't
Michael
gotten to
is not
speak, and he has been just sitting there listening, like,
Everything
what
is
are they talking about? No. Hi, Michael.
I think we've been skipping along the surface of objectification.
Keep going for the testimonials.
As personas, we are confined to and defined by the brain's objectified perspective. We cannot see beyond that because we emerge within that realm. It's a flat land of named objects. And that's the only thing we can know is this objectified perspective. There's no we, of course, to know that. We are the brain's objectified perspective. And it's like a one-dimensional surface that's trying to see what it imagines to be a third dimension. For us, there's nothing beyond words. There's nothing beyond beliefs and opinions. I think somehow the brain can see that. And I don't know what happens. Some refer to it as a shift, a profound shift in perspective, where the objectified world is seen as a beautiful manifestation that doesn't actually exist. We cannot get rid of the me, or we cannot transcend it because it doesn't exist. We are the me that we're trying to exist. They're trying to transcend. And it's a non-escapable world. It's the only realm we can ever know as personas. And it's as vast as our ability, as the brain's ability to objectify. We talk about infinity and magnetism and all that stuff. They're just words that exist only in our definition of them. There's a way to see, for the brain to see that that's beautiful, that it's a story, a one-dimensional story, one perspective, a human's perspective of the world, that's unique and beautiful, and each of us are confined to and defined by our unique perspective. We cannot get outside of that. We are that. There's nothing beyond, for us, that. We talk of it as if it's a real thing, but it's not. It's a world of ideas, self-referential ideas and beliefs. And it's full of love and tragedy and ethos and pathos and loss of love, losing loved ones. It's full of everything the brain can imagine. But it's a world that cannot be escaped. Somehow, and I don't know how, the brain can see that, and it loses all ideas of words, all meaning, and it cannot be spoken of, because the only way it can be spoken of is by using words. And so people who have had this, not people, brains who have had this profound transition, whatever it's called, are also confined to this world of language. And they try to speak of a world with no language, which of course they can't. It's possible to have an intellectual understanding of this. The brain completely intellectualizes it, and it believes that it has a hold of something that it can speak of. And it's really fooling itself. No one understands more about nothing than anyone else. And it's really nothing but words for us, and beliefs and opinions. And we get in discussions about our opinions and beliefs and try to think that we're right. And everybody else is wrong. And everybody else is just a bunch of beliefs and opinions. I see my grandbabies, my beautiful grandbabies. I have 4. I see them as not so much as bodies, but as beautiful accumulations of growing belief systems. One of my granddaughters is headed off to work on a ski hill in Park City with their boyfriend. They've rented an apartment and they're going to live in the snow. And I'm so excited for them. But I don't see them as people, really. I don't see anybody here as people.
Hey, Mark, how you doing, man? Is what you're saying a belief? Is what you're saying a belief?
Of course they are.
Okay. So you
I
believe
would-
in objective overlay? You believe that?
I believe that well, that's another word for the dream. Some call it a dream. We don't know what it is. I see it as an objectified perspective, a shared language is the only thing we have in common. That's our bridge across this imaginary gap. But it's not really an objectified overlay. It's a human brain's named place.
You believe that the human brain is objectively verified,
I think it's as real as rocks or trees.
which
It's
is to
not-
say what? Is it
Well-
real or not?
well, there's what we can consider a manifested universe.
So what you can consider a manifested universe is real or not?
Well, real is just another word that the
Right.
human.
So what does objective overlay mean?
It's an attempt to talk of that which cannot be talked about.
Okay, so it doesn't mean anything, right?
Of course not.
So what is objective about it?
It's the world of named things.
All right, so it's nothing. It means nothing, right?
Well, nothing is just another word.
But like you said, what we're saying is nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's just beliefs. So what you're saying is your objective overlay is nothing but a belief.
Of course, if it
Okay.
has a name,
Thank you.
if it has a name, it's just an objectified belief.
It has a name, but so does everything, and it doesn't mean anything.
It means something to the brain that lives in a world of named objects.
What is the brain if it's not real?
Well, we talk about the brain-body complex. I see the brain as the nexus of the area in the human body where consciousness and
Is
awareness.
the human body real?
It's relatively real in the relative world of what seems to exist beyond our objectified perspective. There
So
are-
no,
well,
that would
there
be
are
no.
trees. I'm looking around at the world outside, or what I consider outside, and the sky and trees and rocks and people. I see.
Is it real?
Well, real is just another word, Howard. It means nothing.
So then what you're saying is not real. It's a belief, correct?
Well, again, beliefs and real are just words that we try
Right.
to.
So a brain would be what?
A brain is, I consider the locus of awareness, or the center where awareness exists.
A center exists.
Relatively, yes.
A relative center exists,
Well, as much as trees and mountains and rocks and birds,
which is to say not.
only as a name for us.
So what is the brain?
It's the name of that organ, much like
Yeah, a
lung.
name.
A lung is a name.
Yeah.
A kidney is a lung. We would agree that lungs are the point where oxygen is.
Do you believe that the brain is processing information and naming things?
I do, yeah.
Okay, then what named the brain?
Well, it's just another name for that gray matter in the skull.
So it doesn't really actually do that.
Well, not as a name, no. But
What
rocks-
named the brain?
The brain named the brain. The brain is the
What
name.
was it before it was named? You are saying that names create the reality. And I am
Correct.
saying,
Only for us.
that if the brain named the brain, then what was the brain before the brain was named?
Oh, I suppose reptiles. There's some wonderful books on the evolution of the brain. If you're if you're inclined to study that. There's a
Circular.
wonderful books on the evolution of language.
Never, evolution has to do with time and space.
Oh, Howard, we're going around in circles here.
Yes,
I'm
we
gonna
are.
interject, okay, just for a moment. Okay, let's just cool down the tension. Yeah, you know, it even arises as this. Trying to figure it out, and it's beautiful. I love the debate.
But Lee, what Michael said was, one of the things he mentioned was that there are those that have experienced this profound shift. He said, I think that was what you mentioned, Michael, that there are those who have experienced this profound shift in awareness, meaning that there are those that have not experienced this. So,
I think it's apparent when we speak to someone who have had a profound shift. They're like a magnet to some people and not to other people. I spent 40 years looking at I know if you mention a name from anywhere from 15 years ago, I read everything they wrote. Ramesh Balsekar has many books. Wai Wu Wai has many books. I read everything I could find. And intellectually, I understood it. I spoke under the name Tumbaru. And intellectually, I had the lingo down. I knew that I knew, I thought. But the night in Las Vegas where I disappeared into a vortex and emerged the next morning weeping was a profound change in the way I saw the world. Everything I believed fell away. The search ended. The search came to a full stop. I love talking to people. I love these interchanges of ideas, but I see them just as galaxies of beliefs somehow reaching across an imaginary gap. Sometimes delightful, sometimes not delightful. I love sharing this. I love writing about it. I love the interchange of this thing, but I do see it all as, and what I say as nothing but beliefs about a world that doesn't exist, that exists only in the human mind. It's the human's perspective. It's different than a bat's or a rat's or a naked mole rat. It's all this life, this pulsating life all around us. And we are part of it. And we somehow, through objectification, through language, can become aware of how beautiful we are and how beautiful everything is. How lovely it is just to be amazed that anything exists at all.
Beautiful, Michael. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for participating. We're about 2 hours in, so I want to,
Wow.
yeah, can you believe it?
No. Yeah, that was
Time
really
flies
good.
when you're having
thanks,
fun.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for
Oh,
your
Howard left.
contributions, and it's
Yeah.
so lovely to chat with everybody. And I look forward to
It
doing this again.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
I
so
love the
much.
interactions. It's amazing. Bye, everyone. It was so good to see
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Michael.
Bye,
Bye,
Michael.
Natalie.
Bye,
Bye,
Anya. Bye, Razia.
Love
Mwah.
you guys.
Mwah.
Much love.
Mwah.